Welcome to the Side Ventures series by SoMeDocs.
Hi, everyone. It's Donna Coriel. I'm the founder of SoMeDocs, and I am actually trying something new. Well, maybe trying something new isn't really an accurate term. I'm debuting something new, kind of off the cuff, and that's something I've been meaning to build. And it's called Side Ventures. I'm not really sure yet what I'm going to call this series, but I'm excited to have, and I didn't even ask you how to pronounce your name before we came on, but Dr. David Keynes, I'm hoping I'm saying it right.
You got
Hi.
it right.
Welcome to this new series. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. First of all, most people don't get my name right the first time. You nailed it. So I'm a full-time practicing urologist in the Boston area. Um, First physician in my family immigrated from South Africa. I spent most of my youth in New York, suburbs of New York. And I'm a father of 5 boys, which is another thing that makes me, I suppose, a little bit unusual. Most
You
people
get
don't
a
get up
medal.
to 5 boys.
You literally, I have
A
3
medal,
boys.
yeah.
I don't know. You get a medal.
Yeah, so we have 5 boys and 2 dogs. And so if you walked into my house at any moment, it's like controlled chaos. So
May I
people
ask
ask,
the ages
yeah,
just to kind of get,
yeah, the ages are so it's 15, 13, 11, 8, and 6. So we're in the thick of it, but
medal?
I'm always in the thick of it.
Amazing.
So, you know how they say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. I think I get a sense that you're the same way, but somehow in the middle of all that chaos, I founded a health tech startup called Well Prepped, which is a simple web app that makes clinic day less tedious because you send educational information to your new patients
All right. You know what?
before they show up,
You're
and so
gonna
that
need
when
to
they
say
come
that.
in, much more
All right.
organic.
Can you hear me? You're gonna need to say it again, and I'm gonna relocate.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me relocate, and
Oh,
you're gonna tell us again
okay.
about that well prep because we did not hear a thing. So here we go. 1 second. I'm just gonna relocate to a less
Okay.
favorite spot of mine. Okay.
Do you think you got the about? Do you think you
Oh
got
yeah,
the
yeah.
about me
I got all
part?
the beginning part, but I just didn't get about
Yeah.
your company, which you were just starting to say.
Yeah.
So just I got all the 5 boys thing, which is absolute. You get a
5 boys
medal.
and all that
Maybe
stuff.
your wife gets
Okay.
a medal. If you have a wife, I don't know if you have a wife, a husband, but
My wife gets a medal. Yeah.
he gets a
I do
medal.
have a wife. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's shout her out right
She,
now. Shout out
yeah, she's
to Mrs. Keynes.
yeah, I want to shout out. My wife Jill is an incredible woman. She makes multitask. You know, most of us don't really multitask. She's a human being who actually can multitask, and she knows how to pick her battles,
Wow.
and she somehow makes it all look easy. And I'm sort of always trying to be better about everything and live up to how she somehow manages. It's incredible.
Okay,
Um,
because of that, I
yeah.
want to, anyone listening to this needs to seriously shout out Jill Keynes for literally being a superwoman, 5 boys. And so again, maybe hashtag SoMeDocs Jill Keynes for her honor. So if you're in the mood to shout out a urologist's wife who is parenting 5 boys, she deserves it. Kudos to her. I have 3 and I do not know how she does it. So amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
hashtag SoMeDocs.
I'll tell you one tip. She buys different underwear brands for each kid. So when we're sorting the laundry, it's easier. Different brands. How about that for a tip?
I so love it that I'm going to turn the camera around for a sec and show you the pile over here on the floor
Yes.
um, that I folded last night. And we said the same thing. I was like, you know what we do? Tip to the audience, different tip. Well, this isn't like, anything so exciting, but w- I basically have the boys do their own laundry because at this point, when we used to do it together, it just got too confusing knowing which underwear was which person's. But it's interesting to actually buy different kinds.
Yeah, I couldn't sort the laundry if that wasn't the case. It's so hard.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so I was saying somehow in the middle of all that chaos, I founded Well Prepped, which is a simple web app that makes clinic day less tedious because you get to automatically send educational information to your new patients before they arrive. And so they show up already up to speed on the basics. And so instead of repeating your spiels over and over, you have a real genuine conversation, like the kind of conversation you want to have with the patient. And so it's been really taking off lately. And so it's been a thrilling ride. But if you asked me 10 years ago, are you an entrepreneur? I would have said no.
Okay, I have a lot of questions to ask about this, but before I do this,
Okay.
just can you give me a minute to turn off my, no, my dryer because it's making a lot of noise, but I
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
questions up here. I love the concept of your side venture, and so I have a lot of questions to ask about it, and I'm sure that the
Mhm.
audience are going to be curious about some of these as well. So, first of all, is it meant just for urologists or is it meant for any physician?
For those listening, Dr. Keynes is now sipping on water.
So there's this adage in the startup ecosystem, I guess you could call it, that you should really niche down in the beginning. And it's sort of like starting a fire, holding a match in just one part of the log. You're much better able to start a fire than if you start waving it all around. So we have started in urology because that vertical made sense. That's what I know, and my immediate network is urology, and the best marketing is really expanded word of mouth. But we can handle right now urology, OBGYN, general surgery, GI, orthopedics. We're about to add med-onc, rad-onc. So as needed, we're adding more specialties, but those other specialties are kind of happening organically as people hear about us. We have our biggest energy in urology, but the concept is we've created this delivery mechanism for educational resources. And so it can work in any specialty.
I imagine so. So, I'm just trying to envision the steps by which a patient is taken. So, let's ask you that first. You know,
Okay.
how does that work?
So on the patient side, that's a good question. So on the patient side, I'm just going to use urology as an example. Let's say you have an appointment to see a urologist for a second opinion for prostate cancer. You get an SMS and an email a week before the visit. It says, Dr. Smith is looking forward to seeing you on such and such and date and time. If you have time, please review the resources on this page. And there's a link. Patients don't have to log in. We try to eliminate the friction as much as possible. And we chose the language of that text to sound not spammy. And the engagement is incredible. So the beauty of Well Prepped, one of the beauties of it is they're going to one web page. And you imagine when you arrive to that web page, there's a stack of buttons similar to Linktree. You know,
Of
Linktree, the
course,
link aggregator for like Instagram. Yeah,
absolutely.
we can talk about that. But that when I first saw Linktree, that was the inspiration for this. So there's like a Linktree style stack of buttons, a video carousel, and the content is stuff that we stock as seed content, but it's open source content from all over the web that we vetted
I see.
as good content. And then the doctor has their own dashboard and they can take stuff off and add stuff on. So our users will digitize their handouts and put them on their well prep pages so that they're not living in a file cabinet somewhere.
Right.
And then a lot of them, this is optional, but a lot of them will prop up their phone and record some of their spiels in a selfie video
Okay.
and put it on their page. You know, not all of our users will do that, but that's when things really take on another level because the patient sees you and your face and your voice, and they sort of start bonding with you before they see you.
So, how does the patient get videos that are pertaining to their illness or their complaint?
Okay, so it depends on the specialty. There are some specialties where you really the patient's diagnosis before they come in. I mean, urology is one of them. Patients are coming for blood in the urine or a kidney cyst or a kidney mass or prostatitis. There's some specialties where that initial diagnosis may not be as certain. So in the specialties where it's quite clear, the front office staff can indicate why that patient's coming in, and then they'll get a link to only the resources that pertain to them.
Right.
In a specialty where that may be less certain, they'll go to a different front door where the patient can pick which one of these is the reason why you're seeing Dr. So-and-so. So either way, it's just a minor variation. But I think, there's so much for us to talk about, but if I could highlight one thing that makes this different, patient education is sort of a forgotten corner of what we do. It's relegated to things like, crappy brochures or stock libraries of content that gets clicked into an after visit summary that if you've ever looked at that stuff, it's so bland and generic as to be not helpful.
Right.
And so here we're saying, you know what? Like, so for example, when I send patients with a prostate cancer diagnosis, I give them this gift and it's multimedia. I want you to listen to this podcast, read this PDF, watch these videos. And by the way, here's a link to a support group. And the patients love it. It's a kind of contemporary multimedia content that patients are searching for on Google anyway, but they're just kind of left to their own devices, and it's overwhelming.
So I'm taking this all in. I mean, it's a great concept. I think that it's not only needed, but I think it so fits into the world of today. My question to you as a fellow entrepreneur, and especially as a fellow entrepreneur who has been doing this for so many years, is there's so many others that I have even met who are trying to do this, right? Like there really are. I mean, I think that the idea itself isn't really novel, right? It's an idea that kind of is floating out there and that we're sort of trying to, I don't know, entrepreneurialize. Is that even a word? Entrepreneurialize this idea. Um, how are you planning to stand out from the others that are sort of trying to do similar things in the field?
Yeah, that's a good question.
We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, Donna Coriel from SoMeDocs. SoMeDocs has just newly released its Side Ventures series. It joins a stellar lineup of other fabulous video and podcast series, including Entrepreneurship in Healthcare, SoMeDocs Conversations, and more. In fact, we're working with our members to create more interesting and unique shows to share with you. But if you're interested in side ventures, we do also have a Facebook group that's been built just for doctors that are curious on what else. Check out the Facebook groups that we manage at doctorssocialmedia.com/our-facebook-groups. I'll see you there.
Back to our show.
How are you planning to stand out from the others that are sort of trying to do similar things in the field?
Yeah, that's a good question. I said before that the best marketing is expanded word of mouth, and I totally believe that. So from the beginning, when I got beyond having a prototype and testing it with myself and some of my friends, and everybody loved using it, when I decided to actually commercialize it, every user, especially if I go back to the first 100 users, I tried to give them the most incredible personal attention that I could possibly give them. Partly because I'm just genuinely so excited about this, and so it wasn't like I had to consciously choose to show them enthusiasm. I mean, whether it was a resident, not even a fully fledged attending who came to well prepped, I just try to give them all the attention that I could and make sure that they got set up well. And I think that that's a differentiator. There's this famous essay by Peter Thiel, um, now from Y Combinator, where he says, do things that don't scale. Like the effort that I put into the early users doesn't scale, but everyone told their friends, and it's taken a couple of years, but that kind of momentum builds. So when you say everyone else, there are companies out there without physician founders who I just think that that's a problem for them. And there's people who are just gonna not give as much energy and effort, and maybe that's one of my differentiators. I just really care a lot about it.
Yeah, I can identify with that. So are you the sole founder? Are there other people involved here?
So I'm the sole founder. The way this worked is funny. When I first had the idea, I was kind of burnt out. I didn't even really want to start a business, but for my own practice, I had my secretary email the NCCN patient guidelines for prostate cancer. And I said, I can't explain prostate cancer from scratch one more time. And she started doing that, and the visits were like so much better for the patient. The patients loved it. I loved it. When we went to medical school, or we decided to go to medical school, something about doing this made us really want to do it for the rest of our life. And I think we were each enamored with making a trusted connection with another human being. And when I was giving these repetitive talks, I felt the exact opposite of that. Like I'm just going through the motions. Anyway, I whipped together a prototype using one of the Linktree competitors and had 10 of my friends try it. And they were like, Dave, this changed my clinic. Like my patients love it. I'm getting through patients faster and still giving them really great care. So I bootstrapped it for the first year myself, and I unfortunately I have no skills at all.
There was a glitch in the recording here. Dr. Keynes was saying that he had no computer skills at all.
So I had to hire an agency to code the first version of the app. That was one of the mistakes I made, was doing that in domestic United States, because that was the most expensive way to accomplish that. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And
Is
it gained
I don't mean
momentum.
to interrupt you, but is that a private number? Or I'm sure people listening are going to be very curious about what that ran you.
Let's say like low six figures.
Wow.
But like, for somebody with 5 kids and a job,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
that's
not
a
like I
lot.
had, yeah, it's not like I had that easily lying around. It was a bit of a risk. Um,
And it was for an app
but
specifically. It wasn't for a website, or was it for both?
it was for an app where doctors could register, have their own account, put their materials on it, and generate websites for themselves, essentially. I mean, that's one way to describe it. So I went in about a year into that, and then decided to bring more people on to the company and raise a round of funding, because it got to the limit of what I was able to put in myself. And we had some paying customers, so it wasn't like a completely blind gamble. Like the few users we had at that point were so evangelistic about it that at least there was a signal that this wasn't an idiotic idea. So I got a chief operating officer, a chief marketing officer, and I found an offshore development team that was more cost effective. And then we raised a friends and family round Um, and the best thing about that was most of the investors were users, physician users who were, many of them were not friends of mine. So that was another strong signal. Like these people have used the app and want to put some money in front of it, and it's not to because they want to avoid hurting my feelings. Um, so that was I want to say about a year ago now. And I just came out of this weekend was the national meeting of the American Urological Association. And we were there a year ago, kind of putting our message out, just getting early traction. And this year, something flipped. I mean, there was so much enthusiasm around this. Users that I never met were coming up to me saying, "Oh my God, I just want to say hello. I use this every day. It helps me so much. My patients won't stop raving about it. They don't have to Google this stuff anymore. So
Wow,
I'm
amazing.
telling you, yeah, it's been a really, I mean, listen, the day to day, I'm up at 5 in the morning working on this, working late at night because I can't really do it on work time. And
Of course.
as you know, with your entrepreneurial efforts, there's always 10 times more behind the scenes than anybody really
And
appreciates.
more. Absolutely. Did you
Yeah.
did you back to the urological meeting, did you have a table there or were you a speaker? Like how did they know that
Yeah.
you
So,
succeeded?
yeah. So this is also from an entrepreneurial side, you're going to love this. So,
We'll be right back. Private Practice 101 is the latest in virtual conferences you can access on our site.
I'm going to talk to you about lease negotiations and purchase negotiations.
I'll talk about how to prepare, plan, and organize your personal finances when you are starting out on your own private practice.
We're going to talk about how to apply this information to detect and prevent fraud.
This talk is for doctors who are fed up with the overregulation of patient care.
And I'm excited to teach you the ins and outs of how to build a thriving referral network and Facebook group.
And how to build in compliance efforts and strengthen your negotiation tactics. Because I want you to make money and I want you to stay safe.
I'm really looking forward to talking with you about creating and retaining a high-functioning team.
About the psychological and emotional things that undoubtedly come up as you reach certain barriers.
Marketing yourself as a professional in the world of today.
Form a virtual corporation and use your practice skills in a virtual environment that allows you to thrive without having to worry about managing overhead, managing a staff, or even managing a building.
Top mistakes in credentialing and those key metrics you're going to want to monitor in order to increase your revenue in your practice.
How to overcome your fear and move from your medical practice now into a private practice.
I'll share 3 distinct skills that when you use them, you can create and maintain a long-lasting, passionate marriage while becoming a very successful practice owner.
My talk called Creating a Vision and Applying It to Build Your Practice is going to help you streamline your process and create the practice of your dreams.
Stop trading the value you provide to patients for cost.
I'm going to teach you how to learn your value and your worth, how it is you get paid and what you actually cost, and how to train your sniffometer and know when to leave.
Access this valuable resource at doctorsonsocialmedia.com/conferences. Now back to the show.
from an entrepreneurial side, you're going to love this. So a year ago, we had a booth. And I mean, we limped in with the smallest real estate that you were allowed to purchase in this. And you've been to these exhibit halls. I mean, it's like a circus. The drug companies are spending $800,000 on a booth with squishy carpets and espresso machines. We got this tiny 5 by 5 foot table. But last year we did that and we were able to generate a lot of social media buzz. So I placed a lot of emphasis on thinking about how do I get foot traffic to this booth without leaving it to chance. So we had this fun thing where people were coming to the booth and they were tweeting. We'd ask them if they would be willing to tweet about it on the conference feed. Every conference has a hashtag. So last year, even though we were the smallest booth in the place, we appeared to have a bigger footprint by being all over the feed. but it was user-generated content. So that went really well to the point where this year I said to my team, listen, I think we can generate the same buzz online. I don't know that we want to be standing in the exhibit hall rather than being able to walk around and be able to meet with people. So I took a risk this year and we did not get a booth, and it ended up being the right choice. We generated some shareable content on Twitter, put it on the feed. It was like a silly video of me pretending that the ID card on a Dr. White coat was listening in on the patient visit, and sort of that persona was tired of hearing the spiels. And these little videos ended up going viral, and
We need one.
then I just there we go. And then I just met, I'll send it to you.
Okay,
So
awesome.
then I just had meetings one-on-one with departments that wanted to sign up their whole faculty. And I mean, listen, there was a little bit more to it. Like we were very careful that our initial users became testimonials and social proof for future users to understand how their experience was.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story. And those are some great tips for the entrepreneurs among us. There's so much that's going.
The other thing,
Yeah.
yeah, the other thing I would mention is, I mean, I learned so much this weekend, but since I've started, one of the things I've learned is if I'm talking to somebody about what well prepped is, I almost never pull out my computer first to show them. Like, our conversation so far, you can kind of picture it in your head. I don't need to show you what this button does and what that button does and what the features are. If somebody's interested, they'll figure that out later. But really, the conversations that people want to have is like, tell me what it is in plain language, and how's it going to help me? What's the value proposition? Like, how's this going to make my life easier? And so the best conversations I have with people are just about that. And then maybe in the last 5 minutes of the conversation, they say, by the way, can you show me what it looks like? But I walk through the exhibit hall. And I see all these other companies doing the opposite. Let me show you this thing. And they go right to the thing without talking about, well, wait, why do I need this thing?
I had a question and it actually escaped my mind, but I,
I'm
have
sorry.
other.
That's because I rudely
Oh.
interrupted you.
No, you did not. This is all so, so great. So you've got at this point like a whole team involved in sort of spreading the word and marketing it. Where do you think is your biggest focus in terms of yield, right? Like returns on your investment where it comes to
Yeah.
marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our biggest focus is to try to sign up groups of doctors at a time. In the beginning, it was sort of, I would jokingly refer to as onesie twosies. Like, individual doctors would find us and hear about us either through a friend or something, and they would get started. And that's great. We want to continue that. But also signing up departments where we can bring in 10, 20, 30, 60 doctors at a time is very impactful for the way that a whole group improves their overall throughput and the patient experience. So groups that really care about patient experience and doctor wellness can tackle both of those at the same time. The patient experience part seems obvious, right?
Right.
The patients consider it a gift if you give them resources to review that you have vetted. On the doctor side, why do I say doctor wellness? Because first of all, I feel the pain and the weight how it is our job today.
The Wi-Fi started acting up again, and so I needed to pause the video because Dr. Keynes was frozen. We were able to adjust, though, and pick up right where we left off.
So you were talking just now, were you saying
I
about?
said that there's a dual benefit, the
Yes,
patient experience,
the wellness. We heard
the
everything,
wellness.
except then you started the wellness.
Okay. So why do I say the physician wellness aspect of it? Because I personally feel the weight of how difficult it is to get through a clinic day. There's so many things that we have to do, and at the center of it, the most fulfilling, enjoyable part is the one-to-one patient discussion. I firmly believe that. So my overall goal is how can we use technology to minimize all the other stuff that we have to do? And one of the things we have to do is bring the patient up to speed. And if we've got these things that we repeat over and over again, and my contention is you're sort of acting like a robot when you're doing that. You're not in the conversation. And this is not to avoid talking to patients. It's the opposite. It's to get to step 5, 6, 7, not like what is a kidney? What is a kidney cyst? Why do we care about kidney cyst? You want to skip to, let's talk about your kidney cyst.
It makes complete sense. And
Yeah.
what does this run someone? Like, what does this cost an individual doctor? Let's say you're in private practice and you're looking to be a part of this venture.
Yeah, so we wanted to make it very accessible. It's 49 bucks a month for a basic version. There's a $79 a month for some more features. And so for most doctors, if you saw one extra level 4 visit per month, you'd pay for 2 months of the subscription. So, it's very accessible.
Yeah, it sounds
And again,
reasonable, right? Again, I
yeah,
don't see the product. I can't comment on it, but I can tell you
of
that
course.
price sounds reasonable knowing like the reimbursements and such.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
exactly.
great. Yeah. So you did one level of fundraising, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you plan on doing another level or are you done with the fundraising?
Well, right now it's a timely question. I'm split on that question because if the revenue that's coming in could possibly spare us another round, that's great from an equity standpoint. But sometimes the money can be a growth catalyst and give us the ability to get to more doctors and more specialties sooner than we otherwise would have. So there's this question about funding. Do you do it because only when it's necessary, or do you accept more capital because it'll help you as an accelerant? So I'm not really sure yet.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I understand that.
Yeah,
There's pluses and minuses, obviously. It's not just about taking money and giving away equity. Obviously, there's networking opportunities and growth opportunities that
exactly.
we don't typically have otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. What an incredible journey to be on. We were originally, just for the audience that's listening, we were originally going on. I thought that I was going to bring Dr. Keynes on with me into the Entrepreneurs in Healthcare podcast, the series that is. But then, in talking to you, I realized that you really are, it's not just about do you think entrepreneurship belongs in healthcare? You are an entrepreneur who has built something and is making it move. And I look up to that. I've been an entrepreneur for quite some time, and I'm what I call myself as a doer. And there's not necessarily a lot of us out there. I think a lot of doctors may have ideas, but I think to actually do after having an idea is a totally different ball game. And I hear that from you, from that story, is kind of some of the struggles that you had, but maybe I'm just catching you at a good time, at a time of an up. We all know that there's ups and downs,
Yeah,
right?
lots of ups and downs. Yeah. You know, um, I would hope that there's someone listening who has an idea who doesn't think that they're an entrepreneur. I just want to tell that person that, I give you permission to get started. There's so much negative self-talk that we do. I don't have an MBA. All right. I don't you could say I have no business doing this, but I was extremely passionate about it. Doctors are so close to the problems that we should be the ones figuring out what the solutions are. And you know what I did? I mean, I read so many 0 to 1 company starting books. Like I essentially went to the MBA reading list and I just read the books myself. I mean, I'm not paying for a degree, but it's sort of like I feel like I get an honorary degree by trial by fire, you know? And I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes, but anyone can do it. It's sort of, you just do the first 3 steps and you'd be surprised the momentum that you get. You know, just something simple, buy a domain, register an LLC. Um, the first few steps, and it's almost like you hit the ground running and you don't stop.
Totally. I love that. I love that. I actually find so much applicability to today's world. I think that a lot more doctors are now curious about this specific niche that you and I have decided to venture into. And I think that it is folks like us that can kind of pass down our learning lessons and the things that we maybe have done wrong or right, and it helps us because we get the visibility for our brands and for our ventures, and we get people signing on and believing and signing up. And I agree with you. I think there's something to be said about doctors coming up with solutions to doctor problems, as opposed to like the venture capitalists that are trying to find the solutions when, they're obviously all about money and selling and things like that. But we're the closest that there is to the actual patients.
Yeah, I mean, you can see just in the last week with Walmart dropping their whole healthcare arm that and I don't know the details of their corporate structure. I'm sure they did have physicians in the mix. But when you do have a physician leading the pack, you're uniquely positioned to see details, important details that other people would miss.
Here,
You
here.
know?
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, okay, wonderful. So I think this is good in terms of a wrap up. I mean, I can probably think of other questions that I could ask you, but I don't have a feeling that this isn't going to be the last time that you're going to be a part of SoMeDocs. I mean, we have so many things happening.
Yeah.
We've got conferences happening. We have obviously series happening. And you clearly have something really interesting to share with our audience, which is heavily made
Yeah.
up of physicians that are curious.
Yeah,
So,
I love talking about this stuff. So
yeah, likewise.
thank you. I mean,
Absolutely. I was going to say thank you for coming on and for sharing your adventures with us. And will you come back?
I would love to come back. Tell me when.
Amazing. Amazing. I will
Yeah,
as soon as I know when. So, again, thank you so much for coming on.
my pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening.